Excellencies, Secretary to the Ministry of Defence, Urban and Development, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Sir, the Chief of Defence Staff, then the Chief of Navies, Captain Gonzalo Joseph, Staff Benin Navy, Captain Adus Vino Kawasai, Commander of the Togo Navy, Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, foreign officers from the armed force officers from the foreign countries, foreign delegations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed privileged and honored to stand here today and share with you my experience and thoughts about on-board security, the threat, best practice, and trends in the industry. I am overwhelmed at the prospect of sharing my thoughts in the presence of such an august gathering of very senior officials, for whom maritime affairs, its geopolitical ramifications, and impact on security of coastal nations are only second nature. Those of you who have had time to visit the Gold Dialogue website would have noticed a statement by Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development of Sri Lanka, whose brilliant initiative this Gold Dialogue incidentally is. He states, the lack of coordinated international efforts to uphold maritime security not only affects ocean-going vessels, but also the national security of coastal nations. That statement, I think, is the best preamble that I could have had about what I wish to share with you today. I have gleefully taken up a new challenge at sea, and that is the fight against the rapidly growing sea piracy in the Indian Ocean. The threat posed by sea piracy is easy to comprehend, and as you are aware, has been in existence from ancient times. In the context of modern day piracy, there are two distinct and crucial aspects that I wish to highlight as they need to be addressed on an urgent basis. Firstly, we should be abreast of new trend in the modus operandi of these pirates. Ineffective countermeasures are to be evolved, that is proper intelligence. The second aspect I wish to address, even more dangerous than piracy itself, that is ad hoc development of what are perceived to be countermeasures against sea piracy. Most of these ad hoc measures have evolved haphazardly without any control by governments, hence are more dangerous and pose a more serious threat than piracy itself, especially to coastal states in the region, and a recipe for disaster if not subject to stringent control and accountability. Avantgarde, in partnership with Ratnalanka Limited, is involved in anti-piracy operations directly under the control and supervision of the Ministry of Defence in a public-private partnership, and is accountable to the Ministry of Defence in a transparent manner at all times. This has ensured that the operation has been conducted in a legal, efficient, and accountable manner, without any problem whatsoever. This is the reason Avantgarde, along with the Ratnalanka Limited, has been able to carry out the business of providing unprecedented infrastructure facilities to private maritime security companies in a total regular manner, as identified by the Chief of Naval Staff on the Indian Navy when he stated in the morning session that Sri Lanka provides the only regulated anti-piracy operation in the world. I am very proud that such identification and categorization was made by a no lesser person than the Chief of Naval Staff of the Indian Navy himself. Thank you very much, sir. Admiral Suresh Mehta, sir, please convey my appreciation to Commander of the Navy of the Indian. Thank you, sir. Keeping abreast of new trends of the modus operandi of pirates is vital, and is the domain of the intelligence service. But such information and intelligence cannot be gathered by state agencies alone because of the vastness of the theater of operation. Such information could be gathered only through a joint effort to state intelligence agencies and private entities that fight against sea piracy. Keeping a track of big vessels on international trade is somewhat possible, as they usually keep to accepted shipping lanes for safety and convenience. However, even for that to be effective, those ships should conform to accepted norms. Otherwise, there's no guarantee. Rogue ships could switch off AIS and get out of international shipping lanes so that the whereabouts would be unknown. That is about big ships. Just imagine numerous small boats in the world's oceans. There are millions. Many engage in fishing. They go wherever they are fish. There's absolutely no way how all these boats could be monitored. Any one of them could at any time be involved in any illegal activity. There's no way the oceans of the world could be policed effectively. To monitor all these type of vessels, navies and coast guards, even of the most powerful maritime nations, simply cannot do it because they cannot omnipresent. Even if they could be to a reasonable extent, it is impossible to check every boat, even in a demarcated and confined area like Gulf of Aden. Then, how do we obtain intelligence about the presence or modus operandi of pirates? The only way to have such information is by using those very same people of a big ships and fishing boat themselves, because they are the ones in the theater of the pirate operations. Having identified this, we at Avantgarde have developed a very interactive exchange of such information with maritime security companies. Navies may have unlimited resources for intelligence, but only seafarers and sea marshals are continuously present in the theater of operations. The information they gather and share with us are priceless for correlations and conversion to intelligence, to be shared by all stakeholders. Only thing is that they should be coordinated. Since most of these security companies operate off Sri Lanka, we are able to coordinate gathering of information systematically. I have great pleasure to provide the information and intelligence that we have so gathered and continue to gather. That information and intelligence is priceless and could be crucial in successfully pursuing international efforts to repress piracy. The second aspect that I wish to share with you is even more frightening than piracy. As you may appreciate, counteraction against piracy has evolved without much involvement by governments or international body. The strategies and tactics have been developed by private entities who offer their services to ships are vulnerable. That is good, so far as everything is clear-cut and legitimate. The countermeasures so evolved have worked in protection of ships. Indeed, ships are now being protected. Piracy off North and East African coasts have significantly reduced, and it is reliably learned that the prime reason for such reduction is the presence of armed guards on board. The genuine intention of these security companies should be commended and admired. Ships are being effectively served. Protections of ships is mostly carried out by companies employing retired special force personnel, and they are professional, steadfast, focused, reliable, discerning and disciplined. They have contributed immensely to repress piracy. Like any lucrative business, ship protection has also attracted many more, some as good as professionals, but unfortunately, some not so professionals. Private maritime security companies have mushroomed all over. It is good, as long as they confine themselves to the admirable task and conduct straightforward business. As you are aware, Merchant ships have always rejected weapons. Weapons and commercial shipping do not go together. Now it is different. Threat of piracy has changed the status quo. This has created a situation where thousands of private weapons are present at sea at any given time. What control are these weapons subject to? Especially when out of government control. The 2008 terrorist attack in Mumbai is still fresh in our minds. Those terrorists have come across in hijacked fishing boats. The damage that can be caused by a few terrorists with weapons is colossal, as witnessed at Westgate Shopping Complex in Nairobi, Kenya. So, implication of uncontrolled movements of weapons at sea are very serious. What is to prevent any of those weapons would not be secretly sent ashore, especially when the incentives are too great to be refused. Excess weapons flowing freely in the region, therefore, should be considered a threat to national and regional security. Some may say that flag state approval is adequate, but you all know that is not adequate. The recent arrest and detention of vessels in Tuticorin is a case in point. We, as an international forum, should go to whatever lengths to prevent recurrence of such deplorable terrorist acts. One way of doing that is to eliminate all possible supply lines to them. Too many private weapons moving freely close to our shores could create these supply lines. Hence, it is too great a risk to ignore. In addition, there's another grave risk I wish to address. There are hundreds of long-line fishing trawlers operating in the Indian Ocean with the approval of coastal states. Most of these trawlers are protected by armed guards. These armed guards undergo extremely difficult and testing conditions. They should be fit to sustain the difficulties of spending long time at sea, sometime over a period of 1 year, enduring extremely limited facilities. They should be physically fit, mentally stable, alert, and capable of performing effectively in these harsh conditions. These armed guards are provided with government-owned weapons. They are ex-military personnel, but irrespective of that, yet subject to further vetting and training before deployment. Being ex-servicemen, they are well trained in the use of weapons, realize the implication and cleared physically, mentally in the use of weapons. As you would appreciate, use of weapons should only be by specially trained people, determined to be suitable in all aspects, especially in the harsh conditions. A new trend is now developing that has the potential of seriously undermining national security of coastal nations in the Indian Ocean by opening avenues for a future free of weapons, future free of flow of weapons. We have irrefutable evidence that for commercial interest, some of these trawlers are obtaining weapons of doubtful origin, perhaps from the underworld. What happens is that weapons from shore is hidden and taken in a harmless looking fishing boat to be transferred to the foreign fishing trawler, which means they could be similarly transferred ashore also at some other place. Now the situation has become even worse. In order to further reduce cost, some of these foreign fishing trawlers do not employ, train and discipline armed guards, but double up their crew to act as armed guards. The ramifications are too serious even to contemplate. Weapons, which ought to be handled with extreme care and by professionals specially trained and suitable, are now seemingly used indiscriminately. Then how could the safety of these weapons be assured? This also needs to be addressed if we are to ensure the security of coastal nation. It is impossible to monitor all fishing boats in the region. But what is possible is for the coastal nations to lobby and demand from states where these foreign trawlers are registered that any armed protection they obtain should be underwritten by a state and such transaction be transparent. Further, Armed guards they employ should be suitable and dedicated for the task. Any trawler not conforming to pose a serious threat to national and regional security. However, for it to be effective and assure regional and national security, there should be a concerted effort where all states act in unison. Any less effort is doomed to fail, as it do not encompasses the whole region. So I have highlighted issues that could pose a serious threat to the national security and what measures should be taken to eliminate this threat. Summarizing my thoughts and concerns, I wish to propose to the distinguished assembly here. Firstly, to form a core group of combined government-private sector intelligence unit consisting of leading private sector companies. As mentioned earlier, Avangard and RAL, in furtherance of common interest, is ever ready to provide whatever information gathered and intelligence we have through our coordinated efforts. Secondly, how do we go about permitting weapons of any origin to be used in the region, even in international waters? Since we should not disrupt legitimate business, private weapons could be allowed as long as they are obtained, used, and stored in a legitimate manner. Combined efforts are required for this to be effective, and I suggest another core group to be established to update legislation and regulations and to disseminate them for adherence of everyone in the region. This core group could address all issues pertaining to free movements of weapons in the region and work out ways to eliminate any possibility of private weapons getting into the hands of terrorist elements. As all of you know, a very effective way of enforcement is by being uncompromising in the implementation of regulations. And we are dealing with nothing less than regional and national security. Therefore, I earnestly request from all of you to give due consideration to these matters seriously and ensure security of coastal nations are assured. Thank you, and I will be honored to answer any question that you may have, any further elaborate on any matter related to maritime piracy. Thank you.